Emma Donoghue, born in Dublin on October 21, 1969, is an Irish-Canadian writer, playwright, and screenwriter. She is the youngest of 8 siblings and daughter of literary critic Dennis Donoghue. In 1998, she moved to Canada and became a citizen in 2004. She currently lives in London, Ontario, along with his partner and their 2 children. In the novel Room, Jack is 5 years old and the only word he knows is the room, where he lives with Ma. He relearns, reads, eats, sleeps, and plays. He often watches television and thinks that everything that is represented in it is an invention. They call the man holding them Old Nick, the name of a television character. The man is the father of the child, born from one of the many rapes suffered by the woman. Jack doesn't know, however, that Old Nick is his father and sees him only as a bad person to stay away from. Thanks to determination, ingenuity, and love, Ma has created for Jack a chance at life, but she knows it's not enough. She devises, therefore, a plan to escape, relying on Jack's courage, but she doesn't know how difficult it will be to move from that closed universe to the world out there. In the book, Ma plans the escape, and in addition to having a plan A, she also has a plan B already programmed. After Jack manages to escape and asks for help, Ma is found, and the two are immediately transferred to a clinic for verification. They spend about 2 weeks inside it, where Jack begins to relate to others. Moreover, problems are encountered in him in understanding the spaces, and he bangs everywhere. The same night Ma was found, she was interrogated by the police. The first to visit the 2 survivors are the grandmother and her new partner Leo, described as a man in his 70s who smelled like marijuana, not likable to Ma. The grandfather, however, arrives only after a few days, since he lived in Australia. The last visitors were Paul and Diana, Jack's uncles. When his grandfather reaches the clinic, he doesn't have the courage to look his grandson in the face, considers the result of a rape, and Ma is angry, saying that if he left, he would not want to see him anymore, so he decides to stay. While they are still in the clinic, Ma decides to give an interview to talk about what happened to them, and she is asked if Jack knew that before him there had been another pregnancy, where unfortunately the child died suffocated by the umbilical cord, then buried in the backyard by Old Nick. The day after the interview, while Jack is out with his uncles, Ma attempts suicide by ingesting many medicines, so the child is taken to stay at the grandmother's house. At the end of the novel, Jack and Ma go to live together in a safe house entrusted to them by the state, but they go first to see for the last time the shed where they had been locked up for years. In the film, Ma despairs after Plan A fails, regardless of whether they still had a chance to escape. After Jack escapes and Ma is found, there is no interrogation by the police. They spend one night in the clinic and immediately go to live in the house entrusted by the state. The first people who visit them are the grandmother and the grandfather, while Leo is shown for the first time when they arrive in the house. He's not at all a drug user and gets along with Ma. The grandfather can face the grandson, and the argument between him and Ma takes place during the first dinner in the house, where the grandfathers decide to leave and return to Australia. Paul and Diana don't exist, so after Ma does the interview, which takes place in the living room of the house, she attempts suicide in the bathroom. During the interview, however, no one mentions the death of Ma's first daughter. Jack's relational skills were very good. In fact, he plays quietly with a child. The last scene, unlike the book, showed that they go to visit for the last time both the house of Old Nick and the shed. The themes covered in the novel are abduction, verbal and physical violence, depression, malaise, malnutrition, maternity, education, psychology, survival instinct, freedom, rehabilitation, and attempted suicide. A book that tells stories that really happen. Every day, adults and children disappear. They are abused and tortured, and sometimes even killed. Every day, families are destroyed and worn out by pain for the disappearance of a family member, which is never found again, because of people who apparently seem good, but who hide great secrets and psychological problems are not insignificant. Ma, who only in the film turns out to be Joy, struggled for her freedom, initially not succeeding, but their determination paid off. This novel makes us understand how much freedom is important for each individual, and that sometimes it is not easy to achieve. The determining factor is above all the desire to live of Ma, who despite having spent 7 years locked in a room, of which 2 alone and 5 in the company of his son, has never thought of ending it. which, however, she tries to do after the escape when the media and ordinary people accuse her of selfishness because of her decision to keep her son with her without thinking of having him taken to an orphanage to lead a normal life. It is a novel that shows us a reality that we are often not aware of or to which we do not give much importance because they are facts that don't concern us. A book that must attract the attention of young people and adults to raise awareness and help those who have been affected by one or more of the topics covered by it. I chose this novel because I was always curious to see the film, which I had never done before. I'm a big fan of the macabre, and this book was inspired by a true story which happened in Austria. From 1984 to 2008, Josef Fritzl locked his daughter Elizabeth in the cellar of his house and had 7 children with her. The book takes into account the point of view of the last child of the woman, born in 2002. I was very interested in just this fact, seeing everything from the eyes of a child who doesn't understand the outside and thinks that his whole world is the only room and is still happy because he is with his mother and the rest doesn't count. Initially, the book is not very exciting, as the life of the 2 characters inside the ship is monotonous. However, when Maddie decides time to escape, the reading begins to be much more pleasant and intriguing, with twists and turns in each chapter. I found it very interesting that the author made Jack the central character, narrator of the whole story. One thing I don't understand very well, though, is how such a small child knew so many big words. Of course, growing up in 11 square meters from birth is certainly not like growing up in a normal environment for us, but it is still inconceivable for me that a child can learn so many things without having external stimuli. Basically, Jack acquired the words and information he knew either from his mother or from books or from television, but I don't think that's enough. In fact, in the true story, Elizabeth's children were illiterate and had learning problems. Having studied pedagogy and psychology for some years, it is interesting to see how the human being adapts to the situation in which he finds himself, even if sometimes with difficulty, and especially how a child's mind is so plastic that it quickly learns certain stimuli from the outside.